Hi, I'm Hayley from Craft Yourself Silly, and this is the last in our sewing kit series for the Take a Break, Create and Craft-alongs. So this is our little bobbin roll. I've got it just here, and this is a really cute little project that you can use just to, have in your handbag with a couple of rolls of cotton in there and then a couple of needles poked into the felt on the top there. So really useful one to have. Uses those English paper piece hexagons again, just in a slightly different way. So to start this one, you're going to need 4 hexagons, and you're going to sew these together slightly differently. We're going to use the ladder stitch that we've used in a couple of the other projects, because what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with 2 hexagons sewn back to back like that, which create a solid end for your little bobbin roll. So to start off with, you're going to attach them exactly the same way. So all of your pieces have been attached exactly the same way, just like that, onto the back. Once you've got that, you are going to take them and you're going to place them so they are face sides out. So your outer fabrics are on the outside there. And then we're going to stitch these together. Now you can do this either as a whip stitch, or you can do it as a ladder stitch. It's entirely up to you which you are more confident and you are happier with, but all you're looking for is to get these 2 guys attached together. So I'm just going to tie these off, and 1 and 2, and then we'll be able to tuck that thread into the middle and hide it as we go. So I'll show you 2 different options. You've got one is your whip stitch, which is what we've been using to attach all the other ones. Sorry, I've just unthreaded my needle there, so just give me a second and I'll just ping that back in. So that's one option, is to whip stitch it. So that's the same one as we've been using to attach everything together. So it's literally through and the thread goes over the top, whips over the top of your fabric, and that's why it's called a whip stitch. This will give you a little bit of visibility of your thread, but if your stitches are nice and neat and they're not too big, you'll be absolutely fine with this option. Your other option is to do your ladder stitch. So let me just do a couple more whip stitches so you can see that, and then I'll do the ladder stitch next to it so you can see the difference as a direct comparison on the edge of here. So the next one you've got is your ladder stitch, where you're coming in and out of the kind of seam allowance edge on the side of the hexagon, and then level with your previous stitch, in and out again, and then let's do one more, in and out again. And what that will give you is, if I open it back up, can you see there's just little span stitches between it, and then when you pull those tight they completely vanish. So 2 different options to get them together, but basically all you're looking for is to get 2 lots of 2 pieces together, which will create the ends of that bobbin roll. So the next bit we need to look at is putting the actual bit that wraps round your bobbin roll together. So let me grab the pieces for that. To put this together, you need 3 pieces. So you need your backing fabric. I've got to give that a little press, it's quite wrinkly. So you need your backing fabric, you need your piece of felt, and then in between this you need that little piece of ribbon, because this is what's going to allow you to keep that bobbin roll closed. So in between the 2 we're going to put that ribbon down. Now I would advise turning it and then turning it back the other way, so you create a little loop like that. If I just squash it flat so you can see, it kind of goes down, across, and then back up on itself. If you can avoid putting a twist in it, brilliant, and this is the best way to do it, is to do it so it comes down, across, and then back up on itself. And you're going to want to just adjust that so it's a little bit shorter, and then pin it in place. So let me just grab a pin and we'll pop that on the top. And then you're going to pin the whole thing in place. So a pin through here and then a couple on the other sides, because the next step is you're going to sew it all the way around, and you're going to leave a gap in this bottom edge here, because this is going to be your easiest point to turn it right side out, or you can leave a gap on the side, but that's where you're going to be stitching later on. So it's up to you, whichever you prefer. I think on the sample that I've got here, I've actually left a gap on the side because that's going to be hidden within the stitching. So whichever way round you go, you need to leave a gap, but make sure you don't leave your gap on this edge, because obviously you want that ribbon to be secure so you can close your bobbin roll. So once that's stitched together, you'll end up with something that looks a bit like this. And from here, we need to just clip these corners off, so when we turn it right side out, it's got a nice sharp edge. So when we clip corners, we often double clip them. So by double clip, I mean we come up from that side, along from that side, and that just means when I fold these in, there's a lot less bulk on that corner, rather than if I just cut straight across on a right angle. So for example, if I move it round and I do this corner, and if I just cut straight across on a right angle, you can see there's a lot more bulk and there's a lot more fabric in there. So try to double clip each of those corners. So I've got 2 more to do, so flip it round, so across one side and then down the other, and this is my last one side and then the other. So all of those little bits we can just get rid of, and then from here we're going to turn this right side through. So again, be careful with your stitches. This you can either machine sew or you can hand sew. It's entirely up to you which you prefer. If you've got a machine and you want to just quickly whip it around on there, brilliant. If you prefer to hand sew, then that's absolutely fine too. There's no wrong way to do this. So once it's pushed through, I'll get my knitting needle again just to get those corners through. So we've got nice sharp corners, and you can see by double clipping them, we've got really nice sharp pointed corners there, rather than having quite rounded ones with that one cut across the side. And then we'll pop them all through, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then we want to give this a press and close up the gap. So we will I would advise pressing this on the cotton fabric side, because this is an acrylic felt. It will take a certain amount of heat, but maybe not as much as you would like to give it, just to get the cotton creases back out. So I'll give it a quick press on this side. So from here, I would definitely recommend, if you've got the time, to just run a line of what's called top stitching around this edge. So top stitching is stitches that are visible, but what it helps you to do is create a really nice solid edge on the side there, and that will help you out later on when it comes to stitching the hexagons onto the side. So we'll get cracking and we'll get these on. So where's my one that's 2 together? Haha, here it is. Okay, so this is 2 together. Now with these, I haven't taken the paper out. You'll notice that it's quite stiff. The cardboard, there's 2 layers of cardboard still in there. That will help it to keep its shape when you create the little roll. And it's just a slightly different way of working with your English paper piecing. So from what we had, the only thing you need to do with this is just take out those stitches, and you can pull, you can pull them out from the front, you can use a seam ripper, you can just cut them away and they will become invisible. So this is what you'll end up with. You'll end up with 2 pieces sewn together, which will form a really nice edge that you can sew into to attach the piece we've just created, the bit that goes up and over. So to start off with, you pick any corner, the first one you can pick any corner, and line it up, and then you're going to start stitching one to the other. So let me just grab a needle and thread, and we'll start stitching these. Okay, let's go. Right, so we're going to do a very similar stitch. You can either whip stitch this or you can ladder stitch this. You've got options, so whichever one you're more comfortable with, that is fine. So we're going to come first of all in through there and then hide that in the center. So we're going to just double knot it to make a nice firm start to it, but with just that little double knot in, we can hide this in the center and trim it away later. And then we're going to line this up with there. I'm just going to grab that needle again just to push that corner out a tiny bit further, because it's not as pointy as I'd like it to be. That's better. There we go. And then we're going to line those up, and either using a whip stitch or using that ladder stitch, whichever you prefer, and I'll show you both options here. We're going to work our way all the way down and all the way around. You're going to do 4.5 sides of your hexagon here. So we're on this side, we're going to do a little bit on this, on the hexagon side. And then when you come to the corners of the hexagons, you are just going to double stitch and then take it round the next bit. So I would actually sew fabric to fabric on this in terms of the cotton to the cotton, and don't worry too much about your felt. That will kind of go into the center of it. The felt's really just there so you've got something to put the needles into, which has a little bit of grip. And then one on the other side. So first of all I'm ladder stitching, just taking a little from each side and then pulling it tight as I go. Now with the paper being left in here, you do need to be just a little bit more careful where you stitch, just to make sure that you're not catching that paper too much as you stitch. And then a couple more and we'll show you turning the corner. And then it's exactly the same for the other side. So it's a really, again, really straightforward project. Should take you about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. But a super, super cute one, and a really nice one to be able to put in your handbag and take with you on the go. So I've reached the corner. I'm just going to flip that round. So I'm going to just put a double stitch in there. So it's already got one through. I'm just going to add a secondary one just for that little bit of security as I turn that corner. And then we're going to work along this side. So that first one I did as a ladder stitch, and you can see there's barely anything visible there in terms of stitching. Now with a whip stitch, the stitches will be slightly more visible. So that's coming over the top. So I'm going to go from the top and catch the cotton fabric, and then same again, always catching the cotton. And if your stitches are nice and even, this can actually make a feature out of it. But if you don't feel your stitching is as neat as you'd like it, then maybe try the ladder stitch instead. But it is a really nice white cotton that you've got, so it will become almost invisible. So there's the two different ways you can stitch it together. And then what I'll do is I'll grab the finished sample that we've got so you can see exactly where you need to stop and start stitching. So your first one, the first side, you're going to start at any corner and work your way around 4.5 corners. So you want to stop here. So we've got side 1, 2, you're going to do 3 and 4, and then you're going to stop halfway along number 5. So in the sample that I've got here, you can see there exactly the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then halfway along number 5 we've stopped. Now that's because if you just leave that one open on that side, you've actually not quite got enough space to get everything in and out. So you're going to need that 1.5 space to make sure you've got enough space to get your little sewing kit that you want to take on the go in and out. And then you're going to repeat the process for the other side. The only important thing is that you start on that same corner and work your way around, because what you don't want to do is start, say at this corner, and then you've got 1 3/4 of the way around one side and 1 3/4 of the way around the other. So just make sure you start on exactly that same corner, work around your 4.5 sides, and then you're good to go. Now, mine doesn't have that little lip in with my loop for my button. This one does. So what I would do is, once I've got that all stitched together, my very, very last thing to do is just find out where that loop's lying and then position my button and sew that onto there. And then it is all complete. I'll hide that bit under there. There you go. All done. So 3 fantastic little projects that make up the Create and Craft and Take a Break sewing set. I really hope you've enjoyed these and you join us for another one.